The priest cleared his throat and looked toward the small crowd gathered beneath the gray October sky. "We are here today to honor the life of Evelyn Carter." Only 6 people stood beside the grave. 6. After 68 years of loving everyone she could, only 6 people came to say goodbye. Her daughter wasn't one of them. Neither was the billionaire who had convinced that daughter to leave her behind. And yet, before the first shovel of dirt touched the casket, a black luxury SUV raced through the cemetery gates so fast that gravel sprayed across the wet pavement. The driver slammed on the brakes. A young woman stumbled out, her expensive black dress soaked from the rain, mascara running down her face. "No," she screamed. "No. Mom, please don't." She collapsed beside the coffin as it slowly disappeared into the earth. But she was already too late. Because the man she had chosen over her own mother had abandoned her only 3 hours earlier. And he had taken everything. Every dollar. Every promise. Every dream. Except one terrible truth she hadn't known until now. The funeral guests stared in silence. No one moved. No one spoke. Because everyone knew. If Emily Carter had listened to her mother just one last time, none of this would have happened. 7 months earlier, Evelyn Carter believed she had already lived the best years of her life. She wasn't rich. She wasn't famous. She owned a small flower shop in Portland that barely paid the bills, and she still drove the same blue pickup truck she'd bought almost 20 years earlier. But every morning, she unlocked the shop before sunrise with a smile. Flowers had always made sense to her. They reminded her that beautiful things never lasted forever. Maybe that was why she treasured every ordinary day. At 68, her knees hurt whenever it rained. Her reading glasses were always disappearing. And she laughed so loudly at old sitcom reruns that customers sometimes laughed with her before they even knew the joke. She had only one family left. Her daughter. Emily. 30 years old. Smart. Beautiful. Ambitious. And lately, impossible to recognize. It hadn't always been that way. When Emily was little, she used to run into the flower shop after school. "Mom, guess what happened today?" She'd wrap her tiny arms around Evelyn before telling endless stories about teachers, playground adventures, and imaginary dragons that lived behind the gym. Back then, nothing mattered more than coming home. But children grow up. Dreams change. And sometimes, so do hearts. Everything shifted the night Emily met Nathan Sterling. The newspapers called him America's youngest self-made billionaire. Technology genius. Investor. Philanthropist. Magazine covers loved his smile. Television hosts praised his confidence. Women admired him. Men wanted to become him. Nathan knew exactly how to enter a room. He didn't walk. He arrived. Emily met him at a charity gala where she had volunteered to coordinate guest registration. She later described it to her mother with eyes brighter than Christmas lights. "Mom, he's nothing like people say." Evelyn smiled while arranging white roses into a bouquet. "Oh? He's kind. I see. He stayed after the event and helped the cleanup crew. That's thoughtful. He remembered my name." Evelyn laughed softly. Emily, remembering someone's name is usually the first chapter of flirting. Emily blushed. "Mom. What? You always think every man likes me." "I don't." "You don't?" "I only think the ones who keep finding reasons to talk to you do." Emily couldn't stop smiling. That smile worried Evelyn more than she wanted to admit. Not because Nathan was wealthy. Money had never frightened her. Power did. There was something about people who had everything. Sometimes they forgot other people weren't things to own. Still, she kept those thoughts to herself. Every mother learns there are warnings daughters refuse to hear. Over the next several weeks, Nathan appeared everywhere. He sent flowers to Emily's office. Ironically, they weren't from Evelyn's flower shop. He arranged private dinners, weekend trips, exclusive concerts, luxury hotels. Emily had never experienced anything like it. One evening she burst into the flower shop carrying shopping bags that looked more expensive than Evelyn's monthly rent. "Mom." Evelyn looked up from trimming lilies. "My goodness." Nathan had bought Emily a designer coat, diamond earrings, a gold bracelet, and shoes so expensive Evelyn was afraid to touch them. "Emily." "What?" "That's a lot." Emily laughed. "It's normal for him." "Maybe. He says I deserve nice things." Evelyn folded another bouquet carefully. "You deserved nice things before he arrived." Emily's smile faded just a little. "Why can't you ever be happy for me?" "I am happy." "No. You sound suspicious." "I'm careful." "About what?" Evelyn hesitated. Then quietly answered. "People who give everything too quickly sometimes expect something impossible in return." Emily rolled her eyes. "Mom, not everyone is like Dad." The room fell silent. Evelyn's hand stopped moving. Emily instantly regretted it. "I'm sorry." But the damage had already landed. Emily's father had walked away when she was 5. No phone calls. No birthdays. No explanations. Just absence. Nathan knew that story. And somehow, he always seemed to use it at exactly the right moments. "You deserve someone who never leaves," he often whispered. Emily believed him. Completely. What she didn't know was that Nathan had already begun asking quiet questions about Evelyn's finances. About the flower shop. About the small house. About an old piece of land outside Portland that had belonged to Evelyn's late parents. Questions that sounded innocent. Until they didn't. One rainy afternoon, Nathan finally visited the flower shop for the first time. He entered wearing a perfectly tailored navy coat. His smile filled the room before his voice did. "You must be Evelyn." She offered her hand. "And you must be Nathan." He shook it gently. Emily watched proudly. The two most important people in her life finally meeting. Nathan looked around the tiny shop. "It's charming." "Thank you. You've built something special." "I've tried." He smiled again. But something behind that smile never reached his eyes. Then he noticed an old framed photograph hanging beside the register. A picture of Evelyn standing in front of a large piece of countryside. Wildflowers stretching endlessly behind her. Nathan's expression changed. Only for a second. "So?" he asked casually. "Is that land still in your family?" Evelyn looked at the picture. "Yes." Nathan nodded once. "Interesting. Very interesting." And in that tiny moment, without Emily noticing, everything quietly began to change. Nathan never mentioned the land again that afternoon. Instead, he bought a bouquet of white peonies, insisted on paying triple the price, and thanked Evelyn for raising such an incredible daughter. Emily practically floated out of the flower shop. The moment they were gone, Evelyn stood by the front window and watched Nathan open the passenger door for Emily. He looked perfect. Too perfect. As the black car disappeared around the corner, her longtime employee, Martha, walked over carrying a bucket of fresh tulips. "You don't like him?" Evelyn sighed. "I don't know him." Martha raised an eyebrow. "That's not what your face says." Evelyn smiled faintly. "My face has become difficult to control at my age." "No. You've got that look." "What look?" "The one you had when that supplier tried selling us dead roses." Evelyn laughed despite herself. "I hope I'm wrong." "So do I. But your instincts are usually annoying because they're right." Evelyn looked once more at the empty street. I just hope Emily doesn't mistake attention for love. 3 weeks later, Emily stopped coming by every afternoon. Then every weekend. Then sometimes she wouldn't answer Evelyn's calls until midnight. When she did answer, she always sounded distracted. I'm sorry, Mom. Nathan surprised me with a trip. I'm in New York. We're at a fundraiser. We're meeting investors. I'll come by next week. Next week became next month. One evening Evelyn prepared Emily's favorite chicken pot pie anyway. The pie cooled on the kitchen table. The candles burned down. The clock reached 10. Her phone finally buzzed. Sorry, Mom. Something came up. Rain check? Love you. Evelyn stared at the message for a long time before typing back. Of course. Be safe. Love you too. She never mentioned that she'd been waiting for 4 hours. The next morning, she packed the untouched dinner into containers and delivered it to an elderly neighbor whose husband had recently passed away. You always think of everyone else, the woman said. Evelyn smiled. It's easier than thinking about myself. Meanwhile, Nathan was introducing Emily to a world she had only seen in magazines. Private jets. Luxury resorts. Exclusive charity galas. Designer boutiques where sales associates greeted Nathan by name. At first, Emily felt out of place. I don't belong here, she whispered during one elegant dinner. Nathan gently squeezed her hand. You belong wherever I am. She smiled. No one had ever said something like that before. Not even close. Slowly, she began changing. Without realizing it. Her simple dresses disappeared. Her laugh became quieter. She started correcting the way her mother pronounced expensive brand names. She no longer drank coffee from paper cups because Nathan said they looked cheap. The biggest change came one Sunday afternoon. Emily arrived at the flower shop wearing sunglasses that cost more than Evelyn's monthly mortgage payment. She hugged her mother quickly. I'm in a hurry. I noticed. Nathan waited outside in the car. His engine never turned off. Emily looked around the shop. It's smaller than I remembered. Evelyn chuckled. It hasn't shrunk. Emily forced a laugh. I guess I've gotten used to bigger places. Before Evelyn could answer, Nathan walked inside. He smiled politely. I hate interrupting. You aren't. We have reservations. Emily nodded. Right. Nathan glanced toward the storage room. You still do everything yourself? I do. That's impressive. It keeps me busy. Nathan looked around again. So much potential. For flowers? For expansion. Evelyn smiled. I'm happy where I am. Nathan tilted his head. Most successful people never are. Their eyes met. Just for a moment. Neither smiled. As they left, Martha quietly whispered. He talks like he's buying people. Evelyn didn't answer. Because she had just noticed something else. Nathan had once again looked at the framed photograph of the countryside. Longer this time. A few days later, Emily invited Evelyn to dinner. It'll just be the 3 of us. I'm cooking. Evelyn happily agreed. She arrived carrying homemade apple pie. Nathan opened the door. Mrs. Carter. Evelyn. Of course. The house wasn't Emily's. It belonged to Nathan. A breathtaking mansion overlooking the river. Everything sparkled. Everything echoed. Everything felt carefully arranged. During dinner, Nathan was charming. He complimented Evelyn's pie. Asked about the flower shop. Even laughed at her stories. Emily relaxed. See? She thought. Mom was wrong. Then Nathan casually placed his wine glass down. I've been studying real estate lately. Oh? Evelyn replied. Especially undeveloped land. Emily smiled. Nathan loves finding hidden opportunities. Nathan nodded. It's fascinating. He turned toward Evelyn. That property your parents left you. Evelyn looked up. What about it? I did some research. Emily frowned. You did? Nathan ignored the question. The city plans to expand west within the next decade. I've heard rumors. Not rumors. He smiled. Probability. Evelyn quietly cut another piece of pie. It's been in my family for almost 80 years. Exactly. It isn't for sale. Nathan chuckled softly. Everything has a price. Evelyn looked directly into his eyes. No. Not everything. Silence settled across the dining room. Emily shifted uncomfortably. Nathan smiled again. But this smile was colder. I admire people with principles. And I admire people who respect boundaries. For the first time, Nathan looked genuinely surprised. Only for an instant. Then dinner continued as though nothing had happened. Driving home that night, Evelyn couldn't shake the conversation. It wasn't the land. It was the way Nathan had spoken about it. Not with curiosity. With calculation. Almost as though he had already decided it belonged to him. The following week, Evelyn received an unexpected visitor. A sharply dressed attorney introduced himself at the flower shop. Mrs. Carter? Yes? I represent Sterling Development Group. Her stomach tightened. I see. We'd like to make an offer on your family property. I'm not selling. You haven't heard the offer. I don't need to. He smiled professionally. It exceeds market value by nearly 4 times. No. Perhaps you should discuss it with your daughter. My answer is still no. The attorney handed her a business card. If you change your mind. She didn't take it. You've wasted your trip. He quietly placed the card on the counter anyway before leaving. Martha watched through the window. That wasn't about flowers. No. It wasn't. That evening. Emily called. Her voice sounded nervous. Mom. Yes? Did someone visit you today? Evelyn closed her eyes. So. Nathan already knew. Yes. I wish you would have listened. I did listen. And? I said no. Emily let out a long breath. Mom. You don't understand. No, Emily. Evelyn answered softly. I'm beginning to think I understand far more than you do. There was a long silence. Then Emily quietly said something that broke her mother's heart. If you loved me, you'd trust Nathan. Evelyn lowered the phone from her ear. For several seconds. She couldn't speak. Because she suddenly realized. Someone had been teaching her daughter to question the one person who had never stopped loving her. And Nathan Sterling was only getting started. Evelyn sat alone in her kitchen long after the phone call ended. The house felt unusually quiet. Not because Emily had hung up. Because for the first time in 30 years, her daughter had made her feel like a stranger. She walked to the refrigerator and looked at the dozens of photographs covering the door. Emily's first day of kindergarten. Emily holding a softball trophy. Emily wearing a graduation cap. Emily laughing with cake frosting on her nose at 16. Every picture told the same story. A mother who had spent her entire life making sure one little girl never felt alone. She gently touched the graduation photo. I hope you find your way back, she whispered. The next morning, she buried herself in work. Customers came and went. Bouquets were wrapped. Wedding orders were prepared. Funeral arrangements were delivered. Life continued. Until shortly before closing. A silver sedan pulled into the parking lot. A woman stepped out, wearing a navy business suit and carrying a leather folder. She looked to be in her early 40s. Professional. Confident. But nervous. She entered the shop slowly. "Mrs. Carter?" "That's me. My name is Rebecca Lawson." "I'm sorry. Have we met?" Rebecca shook her head. "No. But I believe we should." She glanced toward Martha. "Would it be possible to speak privately?" A few minutes later they sat in Evelyn's tiny office. Rebecca took a deep breath. "I worked for Sterling Capital for 11 years. Evelyn frowned. "As in Nathan Sterling?" Rebecca nodded. "I resigned 6 months ago." "Why?" Rebecca hesitated. "Because I couldn't keep pretending." Evelyn remained silent. "I know this sounds strange." "It does. But I think your daughter is in danger." Evelyn's heart skipped. "What kind of danger?" Rebecca carefully opened the folder. Inside were newspaper clippings. Corporate records. Photographs. None of them looked random. "Nathan Sterling has been engaged before." "I assumed as much." Rebecca looked directly at her. "4 times." Evelyn blinked. 4? Every woman came from a family that owned valuable property or business assets. Evelyn stared at her. "You're saying?" "He never married any of them." Rebecca slid over another document. "The relationships always ended after the family transferred ownership, signed development agreements, or granted investment access." Evelyn's hands trembled slightly. "That's impossible." "I wish it were." She handed Evelyn another photograph. A smiling couple stood beside Nathan. The woman looked genuinely happy. "This is Claire Matthews." "What happened?" "Her parents owned waterfront land in California." Rebecca swallowed. "They sold it after Nathan convinced Claire that they would all build luxury retirement homes together." "And?" "The deal closed." "What happened next?" "Nathan disappeared." Evelyn felt cold. Claire suffered a complete emotional breakdown. Rebecca reached for one final document. "This is confidential." "What is it?" "A private investigation." Evelyn looked down. One sentence immediately caught her attention. Psychological profile. Subject demonstrates exceptional emotional manipulation through calculated affection, financial dependency, and strategic isolation. She looked back up. "Why are you showing me this?" Rebecca's voice became almost a whisper. "Because he has started asking questions about your family's countryside property." Evelyn slowly nodded. "I know." Rebecca looked shocked. "You do?" "He made an offer." Rebecca closed her eyes. "Then he's following the same pattern." Silence filled the office. Finally Evelyn asked, "Why risk your career for someone you've never met?" Rebecca smiled sadly. "Because my younger sister was Claire." The room froze. "I couldn't save her." A tear rolled down Rebecca's cheek. "But maybe I can save yours." That evening Evelyn drove to Emily's apartment. She wasn't there. Nathan's driver said they had flown to Aspen that morning. She left a handwritten letter in Emily's mailbox instead. Not accusations. Not warnings. Just love. "Emily. You don't have to believe me today. You don't even have to agree with me. Just promise me one thing. If you ever feel alone, come home. The door will always be unlocked. Love always. Mom." 3 days later, the letter was returned unopened. Forwarding address updated. No explanation. No note. Nothing. Evelyn sat on her porch holding the unopened envelope. She wasn't angry. She was grieving someone who was still alive. Meanwhile, Emily stood on a balcony overlooking snow-covered mountains. Nathan wrapped an expensive cashmere blanket around her shoulders. You've been quiet. I've just been thinking. About your mother? Emily nodded. I hate fighting with her. Nathan gently kissed her forehead. She'll come around. You think so? Of course. He paused. Sometimes parents fear losing control. Emily frowned. My mom isn't controlling. Nathan smiled sympathetically. You don't notice because you love her. What do you mean? Think about it. He spoke softly. Every time you make your own decision, she questions it. Emily stayed silent. Every dream you have, she warns you. Every opportunity, she tells you to be careful. He squeezed her hand. I'm not asking you to choose between us. You aren't? No. I would never do that. Emily relaxed. But Nathan continued gently. There comes a time when every adult decides whose voice they'll build their future around. His words settled deep inside her. Not because they were loud. Because they were carefully chosen. Back in Portland, Martha found Evelyn sitting alone in the flower shop after closing. You've been staring at that same rose for 10 minutes. Evelyn smiled weakly. I forgot I was holding it. Martha sat beside her. You should tell Emily everything. I tried. No. You warned her. That's different. What do you mean? You haven't told her why you're afraid. Evelyn looked confused. Because you don't even know. Martha reached across the table. You're trusting your instincts. But she needs facts. That night, Evelyn called Rebecca. I need proof. Rebecca answered immediately. I was hoping you'd say that. 2 days later, they met in a quiet coffee shop. Rebecca slid a flash drive across the table. Everything I could legally collect. What is it? Emails. Property records. Corporate timelines. And interviews from people willing to speak anonymously. Evelyn carefully placed the drive into her purse. This could change everything. Rebecca nodded. It could. But what? If Emily is already emotionally dependent on him, evidence alone may not be enough. Those words haunted Evelyn. Because deep inside, she feared Rebecca was right. A week later, Nathan invited Emily to a glamorous charity gala in Seattle. Hundreds of influential guests filled the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. News cameras flashed constantly. Emily wore a breathtaking emerald gown. Nathan looked every bit the billionaire everyone admired. Halfway through the evening, he tapped a champagne glass. The room became silent. I have an announcement. Guests applauded. Nathan smiled warmly. This remarkable woman has changed my life. Emily's heart raced. He reached into his jacket. Everyone gasped. He knelt on one knee. Emily Carter. Will you marry me? The ballroom erupted into cheers. Emily burst into tears. Yes. She threw her arms around him. Camera flashes exploded across the room. Within minutes, the proposal was trending online. Across town, Evelyn sat at her kitchen table, unaware. Her old television happened to be playing the entertainment news while she folded laundry. The reporter smiled brightly. Tech billionaire Nathan Sterling surprised guests tonight with a romantic proposal to his girlfriend, Emily Carter. Evelyn froze. The camera zoomed in on her daughter. Beaming. Laughing. Holding up a massive diamond ring. The reporter added one final sentence. The couple plans to marry this spring. Evelyn slowly sat down. She hadn't even known they were engaged. Her phone remained silent. No call. No message. No invitation. Nothing. Then, less than an hour later, someone knocked on her front door. When Evelyn opened it, She found a white envelope lying on the welcome mat. No name. No return address. Inside, there was only a single photograph. Nathan. Standing beside another woman. Wearing a wedding tuxedo. And on the back, someone had written 5 chilling words. He never files the paperwork. Evelyn stared at the photograph until the words on the back blurred through her tears. He never files the paperwork. She turned it over again. Nathan stood beside a beautiful brunette in an ivory wedding gown. They were smiling beneath an arch covered in white roses. It looked real. Too real. The tuxedo. The guests. The kiss. Everything. Except. If the note was true, then the marriage had never legally existed. Someone had gone through an entire wedding ceremony without ever becoming a husband. Why? Her phone rang. Rebecca. I was afraid that picture might reach you. You knew? Rebecca sighed. I didn't send it. But I've seen it before. Evelyn's voice shook. Who is she? Her name was Olivia Grant. What happened to her? She thought she was married. Evelyn's stomach tightened. She wasn't? Rebecca slowly answered. Nathan organized the ceremony. The reception. The honeymoon. Everything. But he delayed signing the marriage license. Then claimed it had been lost. What did Olivia do? She trusted him. Rebecca paused. By the time she realized the truth, he had already convinced her father to transfer ownership of 2 commercial properties into a joint investment company. And then? He walked away. Evelyn closed her eyes. My God. There were no divorce proceedings. There couldn't be. They were never legally married. Evelyn looked at the engagement announcement still playing on television. Emily smiled so brightly that it hurt to watch. I have to stop this. Rebecca's voice became firm. You need more than accusations. I know. You need Emily to discover the truth herself. Before Evelyn could answer, another call came through. It was Emily. For a brief moment, hope rushed through Evelyn's heart. She answered immediately. Emily. Mom. I was just about to call. I wanted you to hear it from me. I saw the news. There was a short silence. So. Aren't you happy? Evelyn chose every word carefully. I want you to be happy. That's not what I asked. I don't know Nathan well enough to celebrate. Emily's voice cooled. I knew you'd do this. Emily. You can't even pretend. I am trying. No. You've never liked him. I've tried to understand him. You've judged him from the beginning. Evelyn took a slow breath. I've judged his actions. Emily laughed bitterly. There it is. Mom. You always think you're protecting me. Because that's my job. I'm 30 years old. I know. You don't. Emily's voice cracked. You still see me as the little girl running around your flower shop. Tears filled Evelyn's eyes. I miss that little girl. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Emily quietly said. If you can't support this marriage, I don't think you should come. The words landed like a physical blow. What? I don't want fighting at my wedding. Evelyn whispered. You're uninviting me? I'm protecting my peace. The call ended. Evelyn remained frozen, still holding the phone to her ear. Across the room, the clock ticked loudly. For the first time in her life, her daughter had chosen a stranger over her. The following morning, Martha found Evelyn opening the flower shop as usual. You should have stayed home. I have bills. You haven't slept. I'll sleep later. Customers noticed something had changed. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. She wrapped bouquets carefully. Thanked everyone politely. worked through the pain. Around noon, an elderly customer named Harold entered carrying a faded photograph. "My wife loved your roses." Evelyn smiled softly. "I remember her. Today's our 50th anniversary." "I'm sorry she's gone." Harold nodded. "I still buy flowers." "For her grave?" "No." He smiled. "For my kitchen." Evelyn looked confused. He chuckled. "Love shouldn't disappear just because someone isn't sitting across the table anymore." Those words stayed with Evelyn long after he left. That evening, someone entered the flower shop just before closing. Nathan. Alone. He carried no smile this time. "May we talk?" Evelyn nodded toward the office. They sat across from each other. For several moments, neither spoke. Finally Nathan broke the silence. "You've made things difficult." Evelyn looked directly at him. "I've done nothing." "You've poisoned Emily against me." "I haven't." "You've tried." "I've warned her." Nathan leaned back calmly. "You think I'm after your property. Aren't you?" He smiled. "Do you know what my company earns every month?" "I don't care." "Your land is insignificant." "Then why won't you stop asking about it?" Nathan's smile faded. "It completes a project. It completes your collection." Their eyes locked. For the first time, neither pretended to be polite. Nathan folded his hands. "I genuinely love Emily." "Then leave my land alone." "They aren't connected." "They became connected the moment you sent lawyers instead of flowers." Nathan stood. "I hoped we'd become family." "Family doesn't pressure each other." He walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned around. "You know, people often lose the very things they're trying hardest to protect." The door closed behind him. Martha stepped out from the storage room. "I heard enough." "So did I." "What are you going to do?" Evelyn looked toward the family photograph hanging near the register. "I'm going to tell Emily everything." The next day, Evelyn drove to the luxury penthouse Nathan had recently purchased for Emily. Security refused to let her upstairs. "I'm her mother." "I'm sorry, ma'am. I just need 5 minutes." "We have instructions." "What instructions?" The guard looked uncomfortable. "You are not permitted onto the property." Evelyn felt her heart sink. "Emily gave those instructions?" The guard quietly nodded. She thanked him anyway. Then walked back to her truck before the tears could fall. From the 26th floor, Emily happened to glance out the window. She saw a small blue pickup leaving the building. She couldn't see who was driving. Nathan walked into the room carrying coffee. "What are you looking at?" "Nothing." He wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "You seem distracted lately." "I just..." "What?" "I wish Mom would stop fighting us." Nathan kissed her forehead. "One day she'll understand." Emily nodded. But deep inside, something didn't feel right. Not because of Nathan. Because she couldn't remember the last time she'd laughed with her mother. That weekend, wedding planning began. Magazines. Designers. Venues. Guest lists. Nathan hired the best event planner in the country. Everything moved at lightning speed. Only one thing surprised Emily. Nathan insisted on handling all legal paperwork himself. "It's easier. I have attorneys." Emily shrugged. "Okay." It sounded reasonable. After all, he handled billion-dollar contracts every day. Why wouldn't he handle a marriage license? 3 nights later, Rebecca called Evelyn after midnight. Her voice was urgent. "I found something." "What is it?" "I shouldn't even have access to it." "What?" "There was another woman. After Olivia. And before Emily." "What happened?" Rebecca inhaled sharply. She disappeared from public life completely. Why? I don't know. But tomorrow morning, I'm meeting someone who does. Evelyn gripped the phone tighter. Who? Rebecca answered quietly. The woman's father. And according to him, his daughter is still alive. But she spent the last 3 years hiding from Nathan Sterling. Evelyn barely slept. The hours crawled by as she watched the first light creep through her bedroom curtains. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Emily as a little girl, laughing with dirt on her shoes, running through wildflowers on the family land that Nathan wanted so badly. By 7 o'clock, she was already waiting outside a small cafe on the edge of town. Rebecca arrived 10 minutes later. She wasn't alone. A gray-haired man stepped out of the passenger seat. His shoulders were bent with age, but his eyes carried the weight of something far heavier than years. Mrs. Carter, Rebecca said softly. This is Daniel Harper. The man offered a trembling hand. Thank you for coming. They ordered coffee, but no one touched it. Daniel slowly removed a faded photograph from his wallet. A young woman smiled at the camera. Bright eyes. Freckles. Long brown hair. My daughter, he whispered. Her name is Sophie. Evelyn looked at the picture. She's beautiful. Daniel smiled sadly. She used to smile like that every day. What happened? Daniel stared out the cafe window before answering. Nathan Sterling. The words hung in the air. He met Sophie at a fundraising event. At first, I thought he was a blessing. He treated her like a queen. He visited us. Called me dad. He even helped pay for my heart surgery. Evelyn listened without interrupting. Then one day he told Sophie we should put our vineyard into a new luxury wine partnership. Rebecca quietly added. The vineyard had been in Daniel's family for generations. Daniel nodded. I trusted him. I signed the papers. What happened afterward? Evelyn asked. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. The partnership wasn't a partnership. It was a transfer. We lost everything. And Sophie? Daniel looked down. She blamed herself. She couldn't forgive herself for convincing me. Rebecca gently placed a hand on his shoulder. She left. She changed her name. She never wanted Nathan to find her again. Evelyn leaned forward. Did Nathan threaten her? Daniel hesitated. He never had to. What do you mean? He destroys people without raising his voice. Silence settled over the table. Then Daniel reached into his coat. I've kept this for 3 years. He handed Evelyn a small flash drive. Sophie recorded everything she could before she disappeared. What kind of things? Private conversations. Emails. Voice messages. If anyone can stop him. Daniel looked directly into Evelyn's eyes. It has to be now. That afternoon, Evelyn and Rebecca sat in Rebecca's office. They inserted the flash drive into a laptop. Hundreds of files appeared. Emails. Contracts. Audio recordings. One recording was labeled. Private conversation, do not delete. Rebecca clicked play. Nathan's voice filled the room. People confuse love with trust. Another man laughed. Nathan continued. If someone trusts you enough, they'll sign anything. Evelyn felt her stomach twist. The second voice asked. And what if they don't? Nathan answered calmly. Then you remove the person standing in your way. The recording ended. Rebecca stared at the screen. My God. Evelyn's hand shook. He wasn't talking about murder. No. He was talking about isolation. Rebecca nodded slowly. He separates people. Parents. Friends. Anyone who asks questions. Evelyn whispered. Exactly what he's done to Emily. For the first time, they had proof. Not enough for a criminal case, but enough to expose a pattern. Meanwhile, Emily was drowning in wedding preparations. Every hour of every day was scheduled. Dress fittings, magazine interviews, charity appearances. Nathan's assistants handled everything. One afternoon, Emily noticed something strange. Her childhood friend, Lauren, hadn't responded to any of her wedding invitations. She called. Straight to voicemail. She texted. No reply. Finally, Lauren answered late that night. Emily? Lauren. I've been trying to reach you. There was an awkward silence. I didn't think you wanted me there. Emily frowned. What? Lauren hesitated. I got a message from Nathan's office. What message? That the guest list had changed. Emily stood up. I never approved that. I figured. Lauren sounded uncomfortable. They said close family only. Emily's heart skipped. Lauren. I've known you since first grade. I know. I'm sorry. After hanging up, Emily walked into Nathan's office. He looked up from his laptop. Everything okay? Why was Lauren removed from the wedding? Nathan didn't even blink. She wasn't. She received a message. Nathan sighed. My assistant probably made a mistake. Emily nodded slowly. Okay. But something about his answer felt rehearsed. Later that week, she discovered another surprise. Her favorite aunt wasn't invited either. Neither was her college roommate. Neither was her former boss. Each time, Nathan had an explanation. Limited seating. Security concerns. Budget adjustments. The excuses sounded reasonable. Yet somehow, the guest list kept shrinking. Until almost everyone attending belonged to Nathan's world. Not hers. That evening, Emily wandered into a room she'd never entered before. Nathan's private study. He usually kept it locked. Tonight, the door was slightly open. She stepped inside. Shelves filled with awards lined the walls. Business books. Framed magazine covers. Investment reports. Everything perfectly organized. Then she noticed one drawer wasn't fully closed. Inside lay several folders. Each one labeled with a woman's name. Claire Matthews. Olivia Grant. Sophie Harper. Emily frowned. Why would Nathan keep files on them? Before she could open one, she heard footsteps. Quickly, she shut the drawer. Nathan appeared in the doorway. He smiled. There you are. Emily forced a smile back. I was looking for you. He gently closed the office door behind him. What did you need? Emily glanced toward the desk. Nothing. For the first time since they met, she lied to him. Nathan studied her face for a second longer than usual. Then smiled again. Come on. Dinner's waiting. As they walked away, neither of them noticed the tiny security camera mounted in the corner of the study. It had recorded everything, including Emily reaching for those folders. The next morning, Nathan watched the footage alone. His expression never changed. When it ended, he calmly picked up his phone. Cancel tomorrow's meetings. The assistant sounded surprised. Sir? I have something more important to handle. He ended the call. Then quietly looked out the window toward the city below. For the first time, Emily Carter had started asking questions. And Nathan Sterling had never allowed that to happen twice. Nathan closed the security footage and sat perfectly still. Most people reacted to problems. Nathan planned for them. He pressed a button on his desk. Within seconds, his chief attorney, Victor Hale, entered the office. You wanted to see me? Nathan slid a folder across the desk. I want the wedding moved up. Victor looked surprised. It was scheduled for next month. Now I want it in 10 days. Victor frowned. That's extremely difficult. I didn't ask if it was difficult. Victor nodded immediately. I'll make it happen. And the paperwork? Nathan's voice remained calm. I'll handle it personally. Victor hesitated. Understood. As soon as the attorney left, Nathan picked up another phone. Bring Emily home. Meanwhile, Emily sat in a downtown cafe with Lauren. The first time they'd seen each other in months. Lauren studied her friend's face. You don't look happy. I am. Emily. What? I've known you since we were 12. You smile with your mouth. But not your eyes. Emily looked away. I think I'm just tired. Lauren stirred her coffee. Can I ask something? Of course. When was the last time you visited your mom? Emily swallowed. I've been busy. Lauren didn't answer immediately. Instead, she quietly pulled out her phone. I took this picture last week. It showed Evelyn standing outside her flower shop. She was smiling at a little boy buying flowers for his grandmother. She still talks about you. Emily felt her throat tighten. Lauren continued softly. She never says anything bad about Nathan. She just misses her daughter. Emily blinked back tears. I know. Then why are you staying away? Emily whispered. I don't know anymore. Across town, Evelyn and Rebecca organized every piece of evidence they had collected. Contracts. Emails. Audio recordings. Photographs. Witness statements. Rebecca looked exhausted. This is enough to expose him publicly. But not enough to stop Emily from marrying him. Evelyn nodded. She has to believe it. And right now, she trusts him more than anyone. Rebecca looked at the calendar. 10 days. What? The wedding invitation arrived this morning. Evelyn stared at the date. They moved it. Rebecca immediately understood why. He knows. He doesn't know what. But he knows someone is getting close. Evelyn quietly folded the invitation. There was no invitation for her. Only a newspaper announcement. The words family celebration were printed beneath the ceremony details. Family. Without her. That evening, Nathan returned home carrying Emily's favorite flowers. White lilies. She smiled weakly. You remembered. I always do. He kissed her forehead. I've also got another surprise. What is it? We're moving the wedding sooner. Emily looked confused. Why? I don't want to wait. She laughed. That's romantic. It is. But something inside her whispered. Or is it urgent? Nathan gently held both of her hands. Emily. Yes? Do you trust me? She smiled automatically. Of course. Completely? A strange question. Yet she answered anyway. Yes. He nodded. Good. The next morning, Emily decided to visit her mother's flower shop. Without telling Nathan. She wanted to surprise Evelyn. Maybe apologize. Maybe start over. As she drove across town, memories flooded back. Learning to ride a bicycle. Making Mother's Day cards. Helping arrange flowers every Saturday morning. She smiled. For the first time in weeks. When she arrived, the shop was closed. A handwritten sign hung on the door. Closed today due to medical appointment. Emily frowned. Medical appointment? Her mother hadn't mentioned being sick. She quickly called. No answer. She drove to Evelyn's house. Rebecca's car sat in the driveway. Emily knocked. Rebecca opened the door. Their eyes met. For several seconds, neither spoke. "You must be Emily." Emily nodded cautiously. "And you are?" "Rebecca. I've heard your name." "I'm sure you have." Emily stepped inside. "Where's my mom?" Rebecca looked toward the living room. Evelyn slowly walked in. The moment mother and daughter saw each other, months of silence disappeared. Emily burst into tears. "I'm sorry." Evelyn crossed the room without hesitation and wrapped her daughter in the tightest embrace she'd ever given. Neither woman spoke. They simply cried. The kind of crying that only happens when love has been waiting too long. Finally Emily whispered, "I missed you. I missed you every day." They sat together on the couch. Rebecca quietly excused herself to the kitchen. Emily wiped her eyes. "I don't want to fight anymore." "Neither do I. I'm getting married." "I know. I wish you were there." Evelyn smiled sadly. "I wish that too." Emily looked down. "Mom. Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why do you hate Nathan?" Evelyn gently reached into a folder. "I don't hate him." She placed several photographs on the table. "I fear him." Emily stared at the pictures. "Claire. Olivia. Sophie. Who are they?" "Women who trusted him." Emily looked confused. "No. That's impossible." Evelyn handed her the audio transcript. Then the property records. Then the investigation. Emily read silently. Her breathing became uneven. This can't be real." Rebecca quietly entered and placed a laptop on the table. "Listen." She played Nathan's recorded voice. "People confuse love with trust." Emily froze. Then came the next sentence. "If someone trusts you enough, they'll sign anything." Emily's face lost all color. "No." Rebecca paused the recording. "There is more." Emily slowly shook her head. "No. I need air." She stood up so quickly the chair tipped over. "I have to ask him." Evelyn grabbed her hand. "Please don't go alone." Emily looked into her mother's eyes. For the first time in months, she saw something she had refused to see before. Not jealousy. Not control. Fear. Real fear. Her phone suddenly buzzed. "Nathan." Incoming call. Emily stared at the screen. It rang once. Twice. 3 times. She answered. "Hello?" Nathan's voice sounded warm. "Hi, sweetheart." She swallowed. "Hi. I stopped by the apartment." "You weren't there." I went to see Mom." Silence. Just 1 second. But it felt much longer. Then Nathan smiled through the phone. "I'm glad." Emily frowned. "You are?" "Of course. Family is important." Another pause. Then he calmly added, "I'll come pick you up." Emily quickly replied, "No. I'll drive." Nathan's tone never changed. "I insist." Emily's heart suddenly raced. Why was he insisting? She looked at her mother. At Rebecca. At the evidence covering the coffee table. Nathan spoke again. "Emily. I'm already outside." Every face in the room turned toward the front window. A black luxury SUV had just pulled into the driveway. Nathan stepped out. He wasn't alone. 2 men in dark suits climbed out behind him. And before anyone could react, Nathan looked directly at the living room window. As if he already knew exactly what Emily had discovered. Nathan stood in the driveway with perfect posture, one hand resting in the pocket of his tailored coat. The two men behind him remained silent. They looked more like executive assistants than bodyguards, but their presence carried the same message. Nathan expected control, not conversation. Inside the house, no one moved. Emily's heartbeat thundered in her ears. Rebecca whispered, "Don't open the door." Nathan rang the bell. Once. Then again. Evelyn looked at her daughter. "This is your decision." Emily swallowed hard. For years, Evelyn had made decisions for her when she was a child. Today, she let her daughter choose for herself. Emily took a deep breath. "I'm done hiding." She walked to the front door and opened it. Nathan smiled as though nothing unusual had happened. "There you are." His eyes briefly moved past Emily. He noticed the folders on the coffee table. The laptop. Rebecca. And finally, Evelyn. His smile became thinner. "I see we're having quite a meeting." Emily crossed her arms. "You lied to me." Nathan laughed softly. "About what?" Emily held up the photograph of Olivia's wedding. Her. Nathan barely glanced at it. "Old history." "Were you married?" "No." "Did you make her believe you were?" Nathan didn't answer. Emily's voice grew louder. "Answer me." He looked directly into her eyes. "I gave her what she wanted." "That's not an answer." "I never forced anyone to believe anything." Rebecca stepped forward. "You manipulated them." Nathan smiled politely. "I don't believe we've met." "We have now." He turned back to Emily. "Sweetheart, people become very creative when they want money." Rebecca couldn't stay silent. "My sister lost everything because of you." Nathan shrugged. "Bad investments happen." Daniel Harper's recorded testimony played from the laptop. Nathan's own voice echoed through the room. "If someone trusts you enough, they'll sign anything." For the first time, Nathan stopped smiling. Emily stared at him. "Is that your voice?" He remained silent. "Answer me." "Yes." "And you think that's normal?" Nathan calmly walked into the room without being invited. He looked at each person one by one. Then he sighed. "You all misunderstand success." "No," Evelyn answered quietly. "We understand character." Nathan looked at her. "You've been against me from the beginning. I was afraid of you. You should have been grateful." Evelyn frowned. "For what?" "I gave your daughter a life you never could." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "My mother gave me a life. You only gave me expensive things." The room fell silent. Nathan looked at Emily as though seeing a different person. "You don't mean that." "I do." He stepped closer. "Emily. I love you." She shook her head. "You love control." "I built everything for us." "No. You built everything around yourself." Nathan's calm expression finally cracked. "This is her doing." He pointed at Evelyn. "She's turning you against me." Emily took one step toward her mother. "No. I turned back toward the person who never stopped loving me." Nathan's jaw tightened. He looked at the folders. The evidence. The witnesses. Then he quietly laughed. "So that's your plan?" Rebecca answered. "No. It's yours." "What do you mean?" She held up another envelope. "The Securities and Exchange Commission has been asking questions about several of your shell companies." Nathan's eyes narrowed. "You talked." Rebecca nodded. "So did others." She pointed toward the television. "Watch." Martha had called a local investigative journalist the previous evening. The evidence had already been reviewed by attorneys. At that exact moment, the afternoon news interrupted regular programming. Breaking news. A reporter appeared on screen. Federal investigators have confirmed an inquiry involving several real estate transactions connected to Sterling Development Group. Nathan slowly turned toward the television. The report continued. Multiple former associates have agreed to cooperate. Photographs of Claire, Olivia, Sophie, and several other women appeared on the screen. Emily gasped. There were more. Rebecca whispered. Many more. Nathan grabbed his phone. No signal. Not because service was gone. Because it wouldn't stop ringing. Lawyers. Board members. Executives. Investors. Every few seconds another call appeared. None of them good. He ignored them all. Instead, he looked at Emily. We can still fix this. She quietly removed her engagement ring. The diamond sparkled one last time in the afternoon light. Then she placed it on the coffee table. No. We can't. Nathan stared at the ring. You'll regret this. Emily smiled sadly. I already regret the months I lost with my mother. Nathan looked at Evelyn. This isn't over. Evelyn answered calmly. It is. Because for the first time, he had lost the one thing he could never buy. Control. Without another word, Nathan turned around and walked out the front door. The two men in suits followed him. His black SUV disappeared down the street. No one chased him. No one stopped him. He had finally left on his own. Over the next several months, the truth spread quickly. Former employees came forward. Business partners testified. Families who had remained silent for years finally found the courage to speak. Nathan wasn't accused of every rumor that surrounded his name. But several fraudulent business transactions were uncovered, civil lawsuits followed, and his reputation collapsed. Investors distanced themselves, major projects were suspended, and the public image he had spent years building unraveled piece by piece. For the first time, his money couldn't protect his reputation. Life slowly became quiet again. Emily moved out of the penthouse. She rented a small apartment only 10 minutes from the flower shop. Every morning, she arrived before sunrise. Just like she had when she was 12 years old. She swept the floor. Watered the flowers. Learned every customer's name again. One afternoon she looked at Evelyn and laughed. I forgot how much work flowers are. Evelyn smiled. They're worth it. So are people. Mother and daughter still had difficult conversations. Healing wasn't instant. Some wounds needed time. One evening Emily quietly asked, Do you think you'll ever forgive me? Evelyn reached across the table and held her hand. I forgave you before you even asked. Emily cried. I don't deserve you. No child earns a mother's love. It's simply given. Emily rested her head on her mother's shoulder exactly as she had done when she was 6 years old. Months passed. Spring arrived. The wildflowers on the family land bloomed again. Emily and Evelyn walked across the fields together. I almost sold this, Emily whispered. Evelyn smiled. No. You almost forgot why it mattered. Emily looked across the endless meadow. It isn't valuable because someone wanted to buy it. It's valuable because it's home. Evelyn nodded. Exactly. That summer, the flower shop celebrated its 40th anniversary. The entire neighborhood came. Martha baked 3 cakes. Lauren decorated the windows. Daniel Harper drove hundreds of miles with his daughter, Sophie, who was finally beginning to smile again. Rebecca stood beside Evelyn as customers filled the shop with laughter. You saved more people than you know, Rebecca said. Evelyn gently shook her head. No. They saved themselves. As the celebration continued, Emily quietly disappeared into the back office. When she returned, she carried a framed photograph. It showed Evelyn standing in front of the flower shop decades earlier, holding a tiny 5-year-old Emily in her arms. Emily tapped a spoon against a glass. Everyone became quiet. She looked at her mother. Her voice trembled. "I almost spent my life chasing someone who measured love by what he could take." She paused, fighting tears. "But this woman." She looked at Evelyn. "Spent her entire life proving that real love is measured by what you're willing to give." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Emily walked over and embraced her mother. "I chose the wrong person once." She smiled through her tears. "I'll never make that mistake again." The room erupted into applause. Outside, the evening sun settled over the fields that had belonged to Evelyn's family for generations. The land remained exactly where it had always been. Untouched. Unbroken. Home. And years later, when Evelyn Carter's time finally came, her funeral looked nothing like the lonely service that fear had once imagined. The little cemetery overflowed with people. Customers. Neighbors. Friends. Families whose weddings, anniversaries, and goodbyes she had quietly filled with flowers over 4 decades. Emily stood beside the casket with tears streaming down her face, but this time she wasn't late. She had held her mother's hand until the very end. After the service, she stayed behind alone. She placed a single white rose on the fresh earth. Then she whispered with a grateful smile. "You were right about him." A gentle breeze moved through the wildflowers nearby. Emily looked toward the horizon. She wasn't looking for the future anymore. She had finally found her way home.